And we are recording. So like, truth be told, I think when they're like, oh, the Met Gala is offensive now because of that. I don't even, what's his name? How much do I know about the world of high fashion? Absolutely nothing.
I've forgotten the guy's name.
I know. This is
starts with an last name starts with an L.
maybe I shouldn't have started recording quite yet.
This is why I edit the videos if I remember to post them.
Lagerfeld, Mr. Lagerfeld, is a controversial figure because he makes lots of offensive comments, or made lots of offensive comments. He died in 2019 in his late 80s after having dominated the fashion industry for decades, apparently. And everyone's up his arms saying like, no, the Met Gala should not be endorsing this terrible legacy. And my counterpoint is that the Met Gala has always been a, I think, kind of a heinous display of the most decadent wealth and excess and waste you can imagine. So like, naming it after somebody who is quantifiably racist and sexist seems pretty par for the course to me. But that's just my class solidarity talking. I'm sure there's other things going on that I'm not very informed about in the fashion world.
No, I've always viewed the Met Gala as being grossly problematic as well.
I haven't given it a lot of thought either way.
It's very reasonable.
I can understand how, fashion is an art form for a lot of people, but it's just an art form I just don't have any passion for, really, I guess. So I guess I have trouble trying to defend some of the more problematic aspects of it, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
you hear like for the guy who was defending like skinny models, he's like, yeah, my stuff looks better on a skinny model or whatever.
Might have been Lagerfeld. I don't know.
Yeah, that's I can't remember the exact
article
quote.
that he was very defensive of his artistic rights to hire real thin models for everything.
Okay. Yeah, you remembered it better than me. But so yeah, it's I lost it.
That's fine. So I guess the obvious utility I see, and I think the reason Kelsey posted the Met Gala article is kind of a comparison between like what is a salon in the olden days versus like, do we have an equivalent to the modern era? And like I think the thing that the Met Gala has in common with like one of Rahel or Dorothea's or Henrietta's salons would have been that like it's kind of a club for rich people to show off.
I didn't get that impression. So I think the modern day salons and the Met Gala, I didn't see the connection there. I thought that was for the article or for the annotation. But I don't think that the Met Gala is a like an analog for the salon.
Yeah, no, I think it's
it'd be more like a grand ball thrown by the court. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's not about intellectualism at any level. It's about flaunting wealth and showing off fashion.
Yeah. Like even the tickets to attend the Met Gala are like thousands of dollars.
And they're invitation only, and you don't get to pick out what you wear. Like, it's all highly controlled. Every single piece of it is orchestrated, and it looks like it's this great fundraiser, but like they say who gets to go, who gets to pay, for the opportunity to be told what to wear and what, designer they have. And it's a display. It's not anything genuine. If that makes sense. But I don't want to, at the same time, I don't want to like detract from the fact that there are a lot of people who see it as an expression of art, and there are some amazing pieces of art that come out of it. But
Well, listen, I think criticizing the Met Gala, in my analogy, if the fashion is art, then I think the art has merit, but I will always be critical of museums. Art is swell, but this thing we do where we have like kind of this closed off and highly corrupt system of rich people that decide which art is expensive and valuable, and then like elaborately construct these huge events and display cases to show off which art is expensive, and then use it as an investment strategy to let rich people make nest eggs that they don't get taxed on because it's an art investment, whatever.
here's my question though.
Fashion good, Met Gala.
And then there's the fact that like a lot of the artwork is stolen from other countries.
That too. I mean, I guess the dresses at the Met Gala probably aren't stolen, but in the broader scale, museums are garbage.
Yes.
I like them and I like going to them, but I just don't think there's anything that can be done to make the medium ethical.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Chris?
The sound you hear in the background, by the way, is my wife aggressively grating carrots.
I was like, all I'm hearing is like the dial-up tone in my head right now.
Okay.
But I was thinking if like the system we have for buying and selling art in modern day society is abhorrently corrupt, but that doesn't necessarily detract from the art itself.
Yeah. Art good, display case evil.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird to think like, is there a way to like cleanly separate art and artist from capitalism? Because it's so hard to be able to make art without
True.
capital investment. Like, and I guess I should say fine art, because you can make art out of anything. Like you see cave paintings, that's art, right? Nobody paid for that. They found the resources. It was like, you know what I mean? Like it was pre-capitalism.
Yeah.
And so I don't know.
And like there's this kind of trickle up factor with art where stuff that starts as like a completely unfunded medium for the oppressed will gradually work its way up until it is like a closely guarded elite expensive form of art. I don't know, like hip hop, that it starts off as this underground movement, and now hip hop artists are some of the wealthiest people in the industry. And there's just been this whole thing of turning like, I can't say antique, but you know, old, like original vinyl hip hop albums into these incredibly high priced commodities, which just seems so bizarre because at the time those records were made, hip hop was a completely unfunded art form, but now it's a status symbol for rich white guys. It's weird. But like, yeah, similarly, I think a lot of cutting edge fashion nowadays is kind of a repackaging of like various cultural costumes and influences and drawing inspiration. Like I don't know, I've also been watching like Iron Chef and that other, whatever other Netflix showy off weird craft TV show is on nowadays. But there's like kind of a trend writ large in the art world and across all crafts where art is kind of expected to draw from oppressed cultures or the artist's personal background. And there's supposed to be this narrative of taking something from an undervalued part of society and elevating it for interest, which has always really rankled me. It always seems really disingenuous because it sounds like the basic premise to that style of art display is let's find something that belongs to poor people and make it expensive.
So here's a question. So that makes me think of like Black Panther and Afrofuturism, because that is definitely taking from a marginalized community and making it into, you know, it's $1 billion, you know, Disney franchise. But at the same time, it is something that has been woefully underrepresented. And so to have it in the mainstream is not necessarily a bad thing.
It's
It's just-
true.
It's the question of who profits from it. But is all representation without proper compensation bad? Or is there some sort of balance there? I
No,
guess.
it's a good question. I don't know. I think about this a lot too with like looking back at Hays Code era films, when you get these like, I don't know, quietly very interesting queer performances out of queer actors that are kind of like either forced to be very under the rug or actively villainized, but still become icons later on.
Mhm.
Like there's a level of death of the author where I feel safe watching, I don't know, some Like It Hot era-esque films of like American men doing elaborate drag performances that are in a lot of ways kind of actively homophobic in like hindsight, but for the time are really interesting and groundbreaking. Where was I going with this? Old stuff I feel comfortable with, like there's a death of the author element where this is now part of history and like engaging with it can be whatever it needs to be. Whereas like my usual beef with like Marvel or Harry Potter right now is that the author's not dead. The author is still actively profiting and usually has political allegiances that are at play in the world we live in. So like, yeah, no, it's an interesting question. Like, I think my stance might be like, representation is always good provided the author is dead.
But I mean, but that doesn't.
Or rather, provided that it's not actively.
Is it representation without compensation, is what you're saying?
Yeah, but like even representation without compensation that isn't currently like profiting a hostile group, I'm a lot more okay with. Like my problem with Black Panther isn't that Marvel didn't pay reparations to various impoverished African nations. My problem with Black Panther is that I think Disney is a terrifying mega corporation that's slowly monopolizing all forms of media. So however good Black Panther is as a movie and however cool it is as a display of Afrofuturism for a wide audience that's never seen it, it's also making billions of dollars for one of the largest and most aggressive corporations on planet Earth.
But if it weren't for that aggressive billion-dollar company, it would never have reached billions of people.
It's true.
So because like I'd never heard of Afrofuturism until I saw Black Panther and it was all over the news. Like, and that allowed me to, I mean, it opened up a whole nother genre to me that I didn't even know existed because I live in a very homogeneous, that's the word, homogeneous white community. So it's, yeah. Is there a way to take back the power from Disney by being subversive? And does that actually take back power from the people who have power? Or is it really just playing into their hands?
I guess I can't think of any way to purchase goods from the empowered party that isn't.
Well, you don't have to purchase them.
Well, Black Panther tickets he did, and
you could pirate it.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. Well, also like for example, because it's just like I'm always more comfortable talking about queer issues because that's where I'm like more implicated and also more versed.
Same.
So like I remember a big hullabaloo when Marvel's Loki series confirmed that Loki was bisexual. And like there was one clump of the community that was like, hooray, representation. We've got Loki, we've got a queer Marvel character. And I belonged to the eternally cantankerous internet queers that were like, this is a billionaire throwing us peanuts because he knows that it's going to benefit the company and he's not taking any risks. That like it's been what?
But
I'm
it's
like that comes straight from Norse mythology.
It comes from the freaking comics that have been published this whole time. Like Marvel
Well, you know,
comics have still
but
been aired.
the god
Um,
Loki in Norse mythology is
Loki's
really,
a
I would
Yogis,
say,
and Yogis
non-binary.
don't have fixed gender. It's a whole separate animal.
Yeah,
Um,
so it's like it's not even that radical. Like if you know anything about Norse mythology or you read the comics,
no.
this isn't new.
Loki is like the second most pregnant male character in all of mythology.
That
Zeus
and
being the first,
Sherlock.
of course. But no, like so with that parallel, there was like one contingent of the community goes, hooray, representation is always good. And the other contingent of the community was like, no, it's not. Because what's happening is that Walt Disney, one of the largest and most aggressive corporations on planet Earth, has figured out that there's a fair bit of money to be made by roping in queer viewers. Like there's enough of us and we've amassed enough capital that it's worthwhile to like throw some bait on the hook to try and get our money. But they're not going to do anything that hasn't already been focused group into oblivion so as to not actually offend anybody with a different political agenda. Like they said, like what happened, the actual scene that was at play in Loki was that like one character says to Loki, like, you know, you've been rescuing princes or you've been rescuing princesses or princes. And Loki says a bit of both actually, and that's it. And like it's such a sterile moment. It's so clearly choreographed to be like, we have thrown exactly one peanut to the queers and they will go feral over it and we will rake in millions of dollars. But we can still air this in highly homophobic countries like Russia and China and just censor out 3 seconds of screen time and it'll still sell in those markets, you know? They're not going to do anything that costs them money.
They even still censor today like queer shows. Like I know not too long ago, Disney had actually removed Owl House from their children's like categories.
I don't know what Owl House is.
It's
It's a cartoon that was originally made for kids, but it has queer representation. So then they switched it out of the children's department, like the children's section of like Disney Plus.
So like I guess and the point of this isn't that I'm saying just all corporate art is evil. I mean, I do think that, but that's not the point. Like I think allowing large monetary investment in the arts often makes it worse. That if there's $1 billion interest in the story being told about Loki, you're not going to tell a good or honest story about the reimagined figure of a gender fluid frost giant from thousands of years ago in Sweden. You're going to tell a highly sanitized tale about a generically attractive white guy implicating that maybe one time he kissed another generically attractive white guy.
Yep.
It's like, it's worse art. It's sterilized. It's highly produced. It's corporate. And I don't know anything about fashion, but I suspect a similar thing goes on. That I think the way people dress authentically when there isn't $1 billion industry going on creates more interesting fashion art than stuff that gets displayed at the Met Gala, which has surely gone through, I'm gonna sneeze, back like 40 layers of focus grouping and designs and checking to see like exactly how many feathers can we ruffle before it stops being profitable for us for Florence Pugh to wear a see-through top. Yeah, I've been talking for a long time. I just watched a video about how Eurovision is corrupt and it's got all of my communist vibes flowing and I'm like, it's a conspiracy against the Eastern Bloc. They're trying to demonize formerly socialist states.
Have you seen the movie Eurovision?
No.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I watch it.
It's like a
A Will Ferrell movie.
It's a Blades of Glory-esque thing, right?
Yeah.
Wait, are we talking about the movie or like
The
like
movie.
The movie
Yeah,
Eurovision, The
Like I
Legend
said,
of
on
I've seen
podcast.
Eurovision, and I actually really liked the Finnish cha-cha number.
Oh my gosh, I love that one.
It was controversial, but by controversial, I mean not in the political sense. I mean people being like that sucked, and people being like, no, we love it, and I'm on page, no, we love it.
Same. When I first watched it, I was like, what the fuck, Finland? But then I like it's like an earworm.
Yeah. Um.
That and Sweden's song, Tattoo.
Yeah, I love Eurovision.
Our Blood and Glitter. It's so like Germany.
My German friends were really stoked about that one. All
I
right.
saw it and I was not
This
surprised.
recording has clearly gone too long. What else should we throw in about the relevant topic at hand before I end the recording and we go back to chatting? See, you got any thoughts about the Met Gala?
I mean, it's horrifically corrupt. It's for basically our wealthier class of humans in our society. It's full of corruption, capitalism at its finest. Who's got the biggest pocketbook kind of thing?
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate in my final
Go.
remark.
Go argue for capitalism.
Not necessarily arguing for capitalism, but I feel like
Yeah.
their decision to choose a fashion icon who revolutionized the
Mm,
industry is not necessarily a negative for the Met Gala. Like, as long as they're willing to acknowledge that he is a problematic figure, but that he also is a revolutionary figure. Because, you know, some of the things he said, it's product of his time, right? And some of the things he said are horrific. But the effect that he had on the industry as a whole is what is being celebrated, not his political views. And so to say, okay, I mean, no one's perfect. You can't choose any single person and hold them up on a pedestal and say, you are worthy of representation because you've never made a mistake. Now, he was openly problematic and he wasn't apologetic about it, but we can talk about it and have this conversation and look at the nuanced sides of it and recognize that he was a revolutionary or whatever. I don't actually know, but I don't think it necessarily detracts as long as they're willing to leave space for the conversation. If that makes sense.
no, that does make sense. I think that is a very reasonable and nuanced position to hold. I'm just a cantankerous socialist.
Yeah.
Um,
Socialist as well.
good job, devil's advocate. All right, I'm gonna end the recording so that no more silliness goes into our Canvas group.
Bye.